Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as J-Monster. I want to thank you for joining me for another 30's Reforged replay battle. This one is again going to be on .97, and this is kind of a follow-up to our previous MANGONEL video. I showed off the new MANGONEL artillery piece, and I said I wanted to make some changes to it. I have made those changes, and you're going to get to see them in action today. So let's take a look at the Misty Mountains army here, this one being commanded by Tundra's Fox. He's got some Blackback Mountain Berserkers, and this army comp is actually quite notable for the fact that it does not contain a single unit of cavalry. I've had many people grumble about, oh, infantry is awful, blah, 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 blah. It is not. At least I do not think it is. And this is an army obviously played by a player who seems to believe that he doesn't need cavalry either. So, move on now. Got some cave troll drummers, very useful for keeping all these lower tier goblin units in line. Heavy gobbo spears, snug skirmishers, a bunch of halberds and spearmen, some crossbowmen mixed in there as well. Heavy gobbo archers, more gobbo spears, snow trolls. Actually a quite effective cavalry measure because they are so damned fast, and when they start charging, well, they're even faster. So very good for catching up to cavalry units. Yeah, all around an effective tool for zoning out cavalry. Got some Mountain Orc blades here. Don't know if this has been mentioned previously, but they have been added back to Misty Mountains, and the reason for that is that the heavy goblin spears were brought down a little bit. It was weird to me that the heavy goblin spears were like 14 or like 12 or something morale. They're like super highly trained, and it didn't really make a whole lot of sense. So they've been brought down, and in exchange, because Misty Mountain relied quite heavily on that unit, they've been given the Mountain Orc blades, who are pretty decent. They got about 8 attack, 9 armor, but they're low on melee defense and their shield value, which I believe is only 4 and 5 respectively. It's got a unit or 3 of the Mountain Orc blades, and you got some goblin infantry as well, and a single solitary MANGONEL. We're gonna have the Goblin King's Bodyguard in addition to, who got a little bit larger. They were previously 60, now they are 80, because Gobbo's all about dat numbers. And I think that does it for Tundra's Fox's army, so let's go ahead and see what his opponent has brought to the battle today. Across the field, we have the forces of Khand being commanded by FFA Muffins, who is probably one of the best players on the Discord. So this will be a real treat for you guys. And again, showing off another Khand battle just because we're kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Misty Mountain has been the focus of a lot of people's attention over the last little while, and now that the Khand buffs have come out, well, Khand is going to be the thing that people are going to want to play for a little while, just to kind of test out how effective the changes were. So, it's kind of cool. Get to, yeah, see two works in progress going at each other with 2 players that are really quite experienced. So, let's see, his army has some Nerniac Horse Archers in it, who, as I mentioned in a previous video, got a nice little buff. They are a lot larger. I think that's the main difference between them and the iteration on .96.1. Pneumatic Marauders over here as well. Got a little bit of extra melee defense and armor, and of course an extra point of missile damage. Neurod Halberds, Neurod Footmen, got some extra damage. I believe they're at 5 damage right now. Cost about 675, but they've got some really good melee stats. Their shield of 10 is probably the most notable part about their stat line. Got some Varied Cataphracts, who are just sexy. They're a knight unit, and they've got plus 10 versus cavalry and high damage, but they're a little bit lower on melee defense. Brotherhood of the Lance as well, quite nasty, and I think this is an upgraded version of them, so they should have about 12 armor, which makes them quite hard to kill. Brotherhood of the Axe as well, probably something similar. I think these guys are upgraded, which means they've got a lot of armor as well, making them very strong. Oh yeah, by the way, on live these guys are 100 or so men, but now they're 120, so it's a huge buff for this unit and for all the other Brotherhood units that received it. The cavalry, however, I believe has remained at the same size. Over on the other wing, got some more Nomadic Marauders, Nomadic Light Cavalry, and a second unit of Nomadic Light Cavalry. And then out in front, is it 2 units of Nomadic Infantry? No, just 1 unit of Nomadic Infantry, who have shrunk in size, but they've gotten the same treatment as, let's say, the Helmingas or the Pardian Marksmen, for example, where they are low in numbers, but they are significantly more accurate, about 10 to 15% more accurate than they are on live, and their stats are greatly improved. So these guys have about 8 defense or something like that, and about 8 damage in addition to 7 or 8, and you can upgrade them, and they become actually quite able infantry units. So that's one of the things that has happened. It seems to have happened to at least a couple of the factions that are cavalry focused, and that their infantry is getting a little bit better as well, so that they aren't so one-dimensional. It's And usually buffs to their infantry are balanced out by the fact that they don't have a ton of numbers. So you saw a lot of the Nurad units shrunk in numbers, and as have the nomadic infantry. The Bardian marksmen are another good example of that, etc., etc. The list goes on. So we're trying. Rohan is actually, I've talked a lot about the Rohan changes, and their infantry is quite good, but it's quite small in number. So it does balance out. So they're still going to have to rely on their cavalry, but their infantry won't be totally garbage in addition too. So that's kind of nice. Then we got some Variag bowmen over here, and I think that does it for his army. So let's go ahead and start the battle. Hope you guys enjoy it. So right off the bat, FFA Muffins is going to use the fact that his opponent has eschewed any form of nobility whatsoever, and is going to move around and be in behind his enemy, be very aggressive, and even get up close with his horse archers, since there aren't a ton of options that the Misty Mountain has to shut them down. Now, of course, they have the Snow Trolls, but FFA Muffins has pretty good control over his army, so it's going to be hard for the Snow Trolls to get that charge of opportunity that they're going to need to in order to catch up with those Swift Horse Archers. That's an interesting formation, tactical geometry in a lot of ways. I think the intent with this chevron here is something similar to like Hannibal at the Battle of Cannae. So the center here is supposed to give way eventually, and once that opens up, then the Mangonel, which has difficulties much like any artillery piece does, firing directly into its own troops at close range, will be able to potentially drop some devastating fiery volleys onto the attacking infantry, assaulting this peak of the chevron here. That's an interesting. It's an interesting tactic to use. Pretty smart, I think. But of course, this army is very compact, so a potential counter that Khan could have brought in this kind of situation would be the Hwacha. The Hwacha is really nice against the Mangonel. I've seen it just devastate Mangonels when people put them close together in the center, which is what people tend to do. It's sort of like I guess it's like a herd thing or something. Let me slow it down here just a little bit because there is some there's some action going on. Nomadic Light Cavalry, second unit of Nomadic Light Cavalry, Nurniag Horse Archers, and of course the Foot Skirmishers from Khan. All taking a bite out of the Mangonel. Mangonel is down from like 60 to less than 20, so less than a third of its combat strength. You can see Tundra's Fox moving in with unit of his Mountain Blades to try and block for them. I believe he's also got his Goblin King's Bodyguard in there as well. Gonna try and keep the Mangonel online for as long as possible, or at the very least, use up some of the ammunition from FFA Muffins. But right now, FFA Muffins really just has... He's got his pick of what he wants to do. There's not a ton of options that a static army like this Misty Mountains army has to counter the mobility of Khand, so it seems like he's going to do the only thing that he can do, and that's just hunker down and try and weather the storm. And we'll see if that works out for him or not. Over here, I have some Snow Trolls moving towards the Nomadic Cavalry. FFA Muffins is more than on top of it, moving out of there before the Trolls have an opportunity to get themselves into charge range to get that speed bonus. But yes, as I was saying, see the Snow Trolls actually going after the Nomadic Light Cavalry right here as well. But I think FFA Muffins will be able to pull them away in time. Yes, indeed, he will. And he's gonna come back now with his other unit of Light Cavalry. He's gonna really pressure that Mangonel. But as I was saying, an army that's bunched up like this is pretty vulnerable to counter artillery fire, and the Hwacha is something that Khan can bring if they're fighting the Misty Mountains and they're expecting a Mangonel build. A unit of Hwacha, or even two, is a great way to counter the way that most players tend to deploy their Mangonels. Like I said, they put them in the center to try and keep them as safe as they possibly can, but if you have the right tools, you can turn that on its head and shut down the Mangonels really early. At which point, that's a lot of the Misty Mountain strategy that's gone right out the window. Snow Trolls doing their best to catch up. The Nomadic Light Cavalry, however, are far swifter, even with that charge bonus, and they're going to be able to fire all the while, hands-free, into the Snow Trolls. Nomadic Light Cavalry now fainting back, getting really close. Going to fire a volley, and then get themselves into Cantabrian Circle. Well, the Mangonel is a little bit more exposed now. See the Foot Archers as well, firing in from the front, but the crewmen are protected by the mass of the Mangonel war machine itself. Slowly but surely, the crewmen are dying off. It is costing Khan a lot of their skirmish resources, though. Goblin King's bodyguards so far haven't taken a ton of damage, but the Mountaineer Blades are really taking it on the chin here. Got some Nurniag Horse Archers in the back, Nomadic Light Cavalry coming in as well. Thunderous Fox is completely surrounded here. It's an interesting strategy to use. It's one that can be very effective, as we all know, but it is one that can backfire, and it seems, looking at the percentages, that it has indeed not gone terribly well for Thunderous Fox, although bear in mind, this is only the beginning. Once these archers begin to run out of ammunition, and they will eventually, it's going to come down to the strength of their infantry lines. Although that being said, Misty Mountains, they don't have a lot of quality. They do have numbers. Both sides have halberds, so it's not like either side has a distinct advantage in reach over one another. It's going to be an interesting fight. There are, of course, still the skirmishers from Misty Mountains, which have not been used at all, so they're going to be full ammunition coming into this. And that could be significant in a lot of ways. What do we got here? Ooh, the Mangonel. I think it's going after the Nomadic Marauders. They're going to get a volley off, though, as Khan tries to peel away at the layers of the onion that is this Misty Mountains army. There you go. You can see only a few men died. It does apply the morale debuff. So the Mangonel is still able to be effective. Yes, it has had body piercing, however, so if it gets a shot along the length, it can do a lot of damage, or a reasonable amount of damage, but in previous iterations that would have destroyed this entire unit, so I think it's a lot better off than it was previously. Nomadic Marauders, however, are not well off at all. Oh, just endless volleys coming in, scything them down. There's a second unit. Ooh, the Mangonel actually went off there, fried some of the medic infantry. You can see the power of that flame shot. A bit more reasonable, though. It's just in a frontal cone. It is something that you can predict and something that you can potentially avoid if you're careful. Nomadic Marauders doing their best. A lot of dead Urux here on the front lines, too. Yeah. Almost about 100 or so dead troops here just from this one unit Nomadic Marauder. So I'd like to think that throwing axes are working as intended. We got here Variag Bowman still trying to fire in at the Mangonel, which is down to 5. I think it takes about two or three men to man the thing in the first place. Ooh, another shot from the Mangonel, going to send those Nomadic Marauders running for the hills. They've done about all that they are going to be able to do, however. Nomadic Light Cavalry, I think, are out of ammunition. I think they're just kind of, yeah, just treating the the goblins to a fine display of Hote Cole. But other than that, not really doing a whole lot. Very Cataphracts picking away. Ooh, that's a nasty thing for the snow trolls. You can see a lot of dead snow trolls. A few Cataphracts fell in return, but ultimately I think that is worth it. And Khan continues to peck away at the wall of bodies and armor and teeth that is the Misty Mountains. Nomadic Marauders being brought forward. Ooh, missing a shot there from the Mangonel. I think a second one is going to be on its way, though. No, I think only one of those machines is active. So the Mangonel's rate of fire and ultimately its damage output have been pretty well crippled by the efforts of FFA Muffins. He was getting a bit close there. Nomadic Marauders think they're going to go after the Gobbo Spears. That would be the smartest thing to do. Oh yeah, the Gobbo Spears, however, are going to return the favor and go after them in turn. Ooh, that's going to hurt, though. Ooh, man, those spears. FFA Muffins is going to get a couple of shots off there. He's not going to be greedy, though. Going to retreat with those Nomadic Marauders in the face of the advance of the Goblin Spears. 60 of them dead in a couple of volleys. Still 3 more left. Ooh, ooh, a nice shot there with the Mangonel Flame. You can see some of those units getting fried as they try and move through. Mangonel is great at that sort of thing. I feel like it has a lot of potential to limit the movement of your enemies and the ways in which they can move. Got in the back here, Nomadic Cavalry. Still a lot of cavalry left. Of course there's at least one Lancer unit that I don't think has been committed. Brotherhood of the Axe. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here. This is looking grim for Thunderous Fox and the Misty Mountains. FFA Muffins definitely knows what he's doing, and he's shown that today. Goblin Infantry, I think, are about to get charged. No, the Manic Light Cavalry are going to go after someone else instead. These archers are surely out of ammunition by this point. Yes, the Variag Bowmen, along with the Nomadic Infantry. Still, the numbers are looking... They look fairly similar between the two sides. Nomadic Marauders coming back. Are there any Goblin Archers here that can do anything about this? Not really. Nomadic Marauders going to have to be careful. If they get too close, they're going to get surprised by those Goblin Archers. Ooh, we must get as close as possible. A hit there from the Mangonel. You can see it only killed about 4 people, but it does do the morale damage. That's a significant part of it. Ooh, they're wavering because they're pretty close, and they just get hit by that Mangonel, which is never fun. Yeah, you can see the work that these throwing axes can do. Ooh. See, there's some response here from the Misty Mountains. Another hit from the Mangonel might rout them. They're holding on, though. Just enough. Those Goblin Infantry. Yeah, it looks like these guys are going to get caught out. That might be enough to rout them. Maybe not, though. The Goblin Infantry are great. And the Nomadic Marauders, as I said, did get a nice buff. Charge from the rear by some of the Manic Cavalry. Might be enough to see those Goblin Infantry off for good. The rest of FFA Muffin's army is now moving in. Ooh, Neurod Footmen, they're going to be running into a halberd wall. So that's something to be concerned about. They're definitely not going to want to move in without the support of the Neurod halberds. We're here, more footmen backing up some Nomadic Infantry. That should be enough to batter their way through the Heavy Goblin Spears here. Neurod Footmen have got about 5 AP damage, and the Heavy Goblin Spears do not exactly have high armor or melee defense. What they do have is a decent shield, and that's going to be the only thing that I think that they can rely on in a fight against Neurod Footmen. Neurod Blades getting charged there from the front. Neurod Footmen holding on, taking about 20 damage so far, probably from some of the skirmishers here, hidden Snaga skirmishers, which I think I forgot to mention. Oh, that's my bad, guys. Yeah, there's definitely Snaga skirmishers here. I'm sure you've noticed that a few times by now. The Footmen doing their best. And now with the addition of Neurod halberds, yeah, it's not going to be fun. Misty Mountains are going to struggle in this kind of fight. Marauders here have managed to deal with Goblin Infantry, which is now running for the hills. Brotherhood of the Axe. Oh, what do you know? Some Shadow Blades in addition, too. Reloading. I wonder what they're going after. Probably, yeah. Oh, maybe not. Yeah, their missiles are still a work in progress. They don't really seem to do the amount of damage I think that they need to. Brotherhood of the Axe, however, oh, they will. A lot of damage, and it is, of course, AP. Not great melee defense, but they do have survivability, and I believe they're also anti-cavalry. They have a small bonus against cavalry at the very least. Variag Bowmen going toe-to-toe with the Gombo units. It's honestly not a bad exchange. The Variag Bowmen are no joke. And of course, there's still Nurniag Horse Archers in the back. Out of ammunition, but still not a bad unit. Neurod Footmen here are in danger of being enveloped, which is something to bear in mind. But with the Nomadic Infantry, they should be able to break through the spears before that becomes a serious problem. Blackbacks, however, have gone on a sortie outside their lines. We're in the process of flanking the Neurods. They've been brought back in, probably in response, of course, to the Kondish Cavalry. We're going to charge right through there. The melee defense of the Blackbacks is going to serve them well from the front. And this is going to be the Kondish Cavalry at a disadvantage, so they'll need to beat a hasty retreat there. They need to catch the Blackbacks while Thunder's Fox is not paying attention. Otherwise, the Blackbacks are going to be hard to charge down. Mount Nurek Blades moving in as reinforcements. Some reason says the Nomadic Infantry is losing, but honestly, I think they would have won this fight. What we got here? Nomadic Marauders. They're trying to hit. Maybe the Snaga skirmishers? Maybe they're out of ammunition. Brotherhood Shadow Blades picking away at the heavy goblins. Like I said, their missiles need a little bit of work. They're not doing the damage that they need to in this kind of situation. Maybe some more damage or some AP or something like that to make the throwing daggers a little bit more useful. It is still whittling away at them. Oh, and there goes the Khandish General, fallen in battle against the Blackback Mountain Berserkers. That is not good. Khand has been dominant in this fight up until that point. The Halberds are strangely enough holding the line and not really pushing the Chevron in the way that I was sort of expecting them to. Which of course means that I'm not 100% certain about the purpose of this Chevron, but it seems to be working out for him, so hey, there's that. Ooh, more shots from those Nomadic Marauders, just raking the back lines here. Mountaineer Blades being overwhelmed. Khand, I think, is going to be able to break through where these Neurods are heaviest, but I think Turner Fox is going to focus his attention on where his enemy is weakest and try and win there, instead of trying to beat him down where he's clearly in a position of supremacy, which is a good idea. Yeah, Course Archers charging into the Heavy Goblin Spears, not going to go well for them, but the low melee defense of the Goblin Spears, getting attacked from behind, but still hurt. Heavy Gobbo crossbows, maybe out of ammo. No, it looks like they still have it. Cave Trolls playing the song of their people. That's the only thing that's stopping these goblins here from just completely evaporating, is the presence of those Cave Trolls. Over here, Brotherhood of the Axe getting pew-pewed by the Snaga Skirmishers. Never fun. It seems like they're not winning this fight. Although, now the Khandish Marauders are doing a little pew-pewing of their own. Look at this, being brought in directly behind the Goblin Spears. Something possibly needs to be done about the Snaga Skirmishers. I think this is a unit that a lot of people overlook. Ooh, a Hammer and Anvil from the Brotherhood of the Lance managing to get in behind the lines. Gonna charge now into the Snaga Skirmishers, now drawing the fire of these units. That's gonna leave... Ooh. It's going to leave a lot of Neurods free to do what they need. Now, this is significant, however. The Mangonel is still online. It's got 4 men. It's got enough, and there's cavalry nearby. Ooh, it missed there. Oh, but it did get the Nomadic Marauders, which would have been a nice thing for these Neurod footmen to have. Oh, he needed to get in there with his cavalry. He could have taken it out. It would have been just 2 seconds for the Brotherhood of the Lance. I think that's probably the biggest mistake that FFA Muffins has made in this fight. He hasn't made too many, but that one is significant. Now these guys are going to be brought to bear elsewhere, but look at this. It's just such an easy shot. This could be a rout. Yeah, there's at least 2 fear-causing units here. Not the Neurod Halberds, but the Troll Drummers, and of course the Blackbacks, both cause fear. It's just going to take one hit, one direct hit from the Mangonel could send this whole line fleeing. It's a tricky business, the Mangonel. Still a lot of skirmishers online as well. Something to bear in mind. What's the Mangonel going to do? The Neurods are closing the noose here. If they all surround the Blackbacks, that's going to be game over. This is his lifeline. Oh, a shot with that disease is going to cause a huge rout. And that's going to give the Blackbacks the time that they need to recover. Such a critical error at a really important part in the game. Letting that Mangonel survive when he didn't need to. Man, oh man. Let's see how we're doing over here. The Neurods and the Brotherhood of the Axe have managed to bring it back. Goblin Spears here have been completely annihilated. Percentages are very close together, with Engsfits trailing just a little bit behind. Got some heavy Gobbo crossbows in the back. Ooh, this is very much in the balance here. The Mangonel down to 3. Soon to be less. Let's see if this Nomadic Infantry can hack their way through them. I would expect that they can. Yeah, now the Mangonel is gone for good. Ooh, Goblin crossbows though. Oh, the Red Halberds, run for it! Run for it, boys! And they're gonna get shot head on. Again, these guys had to come back from routing. If they had been here the whole time, they would have been able to just move on those crossbows immediately, and they never would have gotten in position. And there wouldn't be that lingering disease effect here that you can see, which is causing the morale problems for the Neurod Halberds. Oh, it's so sad. Muffins played this so well, but it's that critical mistake. He had an opportunity to win the game right there, and then Tundra's Fox was able to bring it back with a lucky shot from his Mangonel using the disease projectile. So kind of sucks, but yeah, you gotta stay on top of it. It's got a lot of counters, and yeah, but it can certainly be a big threat, as it should be. And I think a lot of these Neurite units are going to start to break now. Brotherhood of the Axe also thinking about fleeing. Ah, he had this. He had it in the bag. Yeah, I got some units coming back, but now it's far too late. They've broken off. It's easy for these skirmishers here, the heavy goblin crossbows, and anything else that Tundra's Fox has left to cut these guys down to size. There you go. Oh, a fair amount of them dropping. One more. It's not even going to take one more volley. Manic Infantry charging in against the Blackbacks. He had it. He had it in the bag. All that AP surrounding the most important units that Tundra's Fox had left. And it slipped away from him. That's tragic. It was a really great game, though, on both sides. Tundra's Fox was doing what he needed to do. Focused his attentions where it was most likely to be of value to him. And, of course, FFA Muffins, we watched him play. Definitely knows what he's doing. Only that one mistake at the end there, letting the Mangonel slip through his fingers. Game over. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope you guys will join me for whatever comes next. I'm not going to forget to do this time, however. There you go. Casualty screen, you can view that on your own time. Let's see. Actually, I'm curious what the Mangonel did. 73. It only killed 73 people, but it did have a big impact on the way that the game played out. So, yeah, it's useful. I think it's balanced. There's a lot of ways that you can counter it. A ballista is a great way of blowing it apart. The Hwacha from Khan, if they'd have had the Hwacha, then they wouldn't have had to spend the amount of time that they did shooting the crew, and maybe the game would have played it a little bit differently. But in any case, my name is Jordan, also known as J Monster. Hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.